now.
Okay.
Let me just share my screen for you all. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be going through using the Transit app. So to start things off, we're just going to go over a little bit about Zoom. Obviously, we all were able to use it to join to get to this meeting, but if you do get kicked out of the Zoom meeting at any point, there's 3 different ways that the meeting can be joined. You can join the meeting through the Zoom app by clicking on Open a Zoom Meeting. You can join through your browser, click on Join from your browser. So if you don't have the app installed or if you're having trouble, if you click on that link, it'll just open it up in your web browser, allow you to join the meeting that way. Or you can call in. To call in that invite that you received, there will be a number. You'll click on that. It will dial into our meeting. You'll be able to hear what we're saying. You won't be able to see the screen anymore, but you'll at least be able to listen and follow along that way. So if you lose internet during the meeting or something like that, calling in is always an option as well. As for controls during the meeting, a couple things to note. Over on the far left of your screen, you'll see the little microphone button. That's your microphone for speaking. We recommend keeping it muted if you're not speaking. Sometimes there can just be a little bit of feedback if it's on. So to cut down on that, we always try to keep them muted. Next to that, you'll have your video button. You don't need to have your video on. It allows us to see you, but don't feel as though you have to have it on at all times. By clicking on it, you can turn it on and off. In the middle there's a participants button to see who all is in the meeting. And then there's a chat function as well by clicking on chat. If you have any questions throughout the meeting, you don't want to, either you can raise your hand, chat them out, but you can also always type them in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on it there and get back to you as quickly as possible in the chat as well. So I'm going to stop sharing to do introductions. But for introductions, just the name, where you live, and whether you have used the Transit app before. So let me stop my screen share. So I'll go first. I'm Aiden. I live in Erie, but I work in Boulder with Mobility for All. And I use the Transit app quite a bit. It's my go-to app when I'm taking the bus to and from school. I like how quickly it updates bus schedules. I find it really easy to use. So it's my go-to for figuring out what bus I need when I get out of class. Next, we have Lisa.
I'm Lisa. I live in Lafayette, and I'm one of the ambassadors for Mobility for All. And I've used it before to coordinate both walking and taking the bus, or also seeing whether I could do it by bus or do it or needed other means.
Perfect. Thanks, Lisa. And last we have Anna.
I'm Ana Colon from Mobility for All. I live in Denver, and I barely heard about Transit app after the pandemic started. So although it seems like a cool app, I haven't really used it much, but I am excited to try it out once I start traveling again.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna. So I'm going to share my screen again. So as mentioned, Anna and myself from Mobility for All, and Lisa is one of our ambassadors. So Mobility for All, we promote equitable, affordable, and accessible transportation options for limited mobility individuals. So we can help you figure out what type of transportation will work for what trip, and how to even string multiple types of transportation together to get to where you need to go, because we believe having access to quality mobility is a key component to living a thriving life. So we are your one-stop resource for any type of mobility in the Boulder County area and can help you out with that. I do want to acknowledge up front that we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has certainly changed people's travel habits and exposed inequities throughout our society. Transit providers have been making changes in the last year in order to allow people to still safely use their services that we all rely on. So there's increased cleaning and disinfecting. And many have even switched to doing some delivery, so bringing groceries and medicine and stuff like that to people's homes where they may have had to go out before. But just because we are doing education about using transportation during the pandemic does not mean that we expect you to go out and use it. It just can be a good time to learn about it. And down the road, when we're all vaccinated and things are safe again, you'll have these skills in your toolbox to start trying out these new modes. So we do just want to acknowledge that up front. This is one of our series on mobility technology. So we do a workshop on using Lyft, using Uber, using RTD's mobile ticketing app, today's session on using the transit app, and one on Google Maps as well. So we do cover a broad range of different applications that can help you get to where you need to go. This is just one of those. So for today, our goals are to increase confidence using the app, connect people with our ambassadors such as Lisa, receive transportation supports, and then upon completion of the class, we'll send out a survey. And when that is completed, you'll receive 10 RTD mobile tickets, so you can go and try out this service when it is safe to do so. So as I mentioned, we are joined today by one of our ambassadors, Lisa. I'm going to turn it over to her just for a minute to talk a little bit about why she joined the ambassador program and what she can do to assist you all with your mobility needs.
Hi. Well, I had to give up driving after I drove through a garage. And so it was time to give up driving. And I started out using Via and then Uber and Lyft. And as I was trying to get creative about all of this, a friend of mine saw an article on Mobility for All, and she goes, "They're looking for volunteers. You got to do it." And at the same time, I'm part of True Pace, which is a program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. And I would be sitting around with the women there, and I'd say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the thrift store." And they go, "I don't get to go shopping unless my daughter takes me." And it's like, no, you can go shopping on your own. And so I was already trying to help people with this before I became an ambassador. And so now, we will do everything from help you come up with a travel plan, or we might even do a ride along with you. Or if you suddenly get, suddenly it becomes okay, or you have to use Uber and it's time, or use transit, you can call up, you can have coffee with an ambassador, and we'll take care of you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. And
You're
we're lucky to have you on board, and you're one of 15 ambassadors that we have. So if you need any support, we can connect you with an ambassador, and they will help figure out what mobility option is best for that trip. I do want to briefly touch on different smartphones as I do go through this presentation and the demonstration. It may look slightly different whether you're using an iPhone or an Android phone. The applications still have the same core functionality. They still work the same, but buttons may be in a slightly different location. So if you see my demonstration, you're like, "Oh, well, on my phone, it looks a little bit different." It's probably that you're using an iPhone and I'm demonstrating from an Android device or vice versa. So just keep that in mind. The apps work the same. It may look slightly different. Also just want to touch on safety. No app is perfect. You know the safety of the area better than the application does. So with an app like the Transit app or Google Maps, where it may be giving you some walking instructions, it may be having you walk in a certain area because that's the fastest route, but it may not feel safe. It may want you to cross in the middle of the street, not at the crosswalk or something along those lines. So just be aware of your surroundings. Your judgment's always better than the app. It will adjust to your new route, so don't worry. It will be able to find you and adjust to that new route. But just keep that in mind. Also, we always encourage you to have an emergency contact number with you, just in case your phone dies and you need to reach them. Always a good thing to have with you. Also, just a brief note on privacy. The Transit app does collect some user data, locations, and movement when you're using the app, your app preferences, usage data. It's all disaggregated, so it's not connected to your name and it allows them to improve the service. However, just something to be aware of, and you can find more information at transitapp.com. They have a section there on privacy. So we do just want to make note of that. As we mentioned up top, it is the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and this means that riding the bus looks a little bit different than before. So these are RTD standards for riding the bus. So all riders must wear a mask while on the bus, arrive at the bus station no more than 10 minutes prior to the bus's departure if possible, so just to limit that exposure time. I know that one, for me, oftentimes I would show up at the bus pretty early. I'd get out of class and my bus doesn't come for 20 minutes. I'd be at the bus station early. They're now recommending you don't do that. So just try to limit your exposure. Maintain 6 feet of separation while waiting for the bus, and sanitize and wash your hands. I know I always carry a little bottle of sanitizer with me. If that's not a possibility, just wash them when you reach your destination. And they have increased cleaning on all their buses. You'll notice the drivers wearing masks as well. So everyone's following the rules, but it is a little bit different than it was pre-COVID-19. So from here, we'll start moving into the presentation portion of the class. So some of the materials that we'll be going over today are the handouts, this presentation, and then the transportation planning worksheet. All of those were sent out in that pre-workshop email, so you will have them to reference back when you're using the app on your own. We'll be covering all 3 of those documents today. So we'll start out with that trip planner worksheet that you saw. So on one side of the sheet, you'll see this page here. This just covers the apps that we cover in each of our classes. So Google Maps, Transit app, RTD mobile ticketing, Lyft, and Uber, with a brief description of what each application does, as well as some additional transportation resources that we really handy to have. So we include the RTD trip planner and next ride system. And that includes a phone number where you could call RTD and they could help you trip plan. So let's say you missed your bus and you needed help, you can call that number and they'll help talk you through what bus you need. There's the RTD Accessoride, Via Mobility Service, which Lisa mentioned earlier, Z-Trip, which is a cab service in the area, GoGo Grandparent, which works as a concierge service for Uber and Lyft. So if you don't have a smartphone, you can call that phone number and they can set up an Uber or Lyft ride for you. It is a little bit more expensive, but is an option. The Denver Regional Mobility and Access Council, Dr. Mack, who publishes the Getting There Guide, which covers a bunch of different transportation options throughout the Denver metro region. The Area Agency on Aging Resource Line, the Faith in Action Volunteer Driver Program. However, I think they are up and doing some volunteer driver trips again now, but I know their amount of trips they've been doing has been reduced a little bit, but a great resource to have, especially post-COVID. And then lastly, the Medicaid and Teleride, formerly VO. Their number is listed there as well, and a spot to put that emergency contact number if you're going to be carrying the sheet with you. Then on the other side of the sheet, you'll find this matrix here. So there's a slot for the date and time of your trip, your starting address, so that could be your home, or it could be the doctor's office, wherever you're starting from, where you're headed, how you want to get there, how much it's going to cost you, and then any notes. So this document allows you to try out these plug-in trips with different apps that you've learned about and see which one makes the most sense for which trip. You can compare the time and the cost. You can even write down notes such as what your backup option would be if you missed your bus or something along those lines. So it can be a really handy tool to help figure out which transportation option meets that trip. I don't know if you've had experience using this, Lisa, if you have any insights to what kind of trips you've used it for.
I have used it, and part of what it helps with is the thing that I found now that for me to travel independently requires logistics planning. And it's a big deal. I'm with a walker, and that means sometimes going over, if you're going to to Louisville and you're going to the RTD station, and then you have to cross over the big bridge to go over to the other side. That can be a little dicey, like in weather like today.
Exactly.
So, and lets you take it step by step.
Perfect. Good. Thank you for that insight. And like how Lisa uses it, you can write out multiple options for that trip and figure out which one fits best. So it's a handy tool to help doing some of that trip and logistics planning. So now we'll get into the transit app. So what is a transit app? It's a smartphone-based transit planner with real-time information, and it works in multiple cities. The Denver area, Denver, Boulder, the whole metro area, the RTD district, is one of many different transit regions that is part of the application. But if you were traveling and say in San Francisco, the app would work there with updated with their bus information. So it's for public transit, and it works in many different cities throughout the US and even some internationally as well. So to get started, the first thing you're going to need to do is to download the application. So to do that, if you're using an iPhone, you can go to the App Store, that blue A. If you're an Android user, you'll head to the Play Store, that rainbow triangle. Click on that, open it up, and in there you'll type in the transit app. There'll be that green logo that you see on the right, that green with that kind of like root squiggle on it. That's the transit app. You're going to click on get or download, depending on which phone you have, and that will download the application to your phone. Once you open it up, the first thing it's going to ask you if you want the transit app to access your location. You don't have to say yes. I would recommend that you do. If you allow it to use your location, you don't need to know the address that your trip is starting at. So let's say you're at your doctor's office and it's in a big medical complex. Maybe there's multiple addresses for that location. You don't need to know which one you're at because the app can find where you are. So I always allow it to use my location. If you decide you don't want it to, that's okay too. You will just have to type in your address each time you're using it.
Can I ask something? Can you on this just set it for allow when in use?
Yes.
So you don't use up your data?
Yep, you can allow it to use your location only when using the app.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, that's how I have mine set for that reason exactly. So once you've done that, you'll see this main landing page. There'll be a map up top that will show your location. That blue dot that you see in the middle of that picture there, that's the location of the person using the application. And then down at the bottom is the where to search bar. So you're gonna click on that. From there, you can type in where you're headed. So this person's heading to the Pearl Street Mall, and they click get directions. And this is going from their current location to the Pearl Street Mall. This will pull up all of the different public transit options that are available to them. So you'll see this person, it looks like there are 3 different public transit options, all taking slightly different times. And then down at the bottom, it also shows information to take a Lyft. You will, if you were to take a Lyft, you would need the Lyft app downloaded as well. The transit app will just show you that Lyft is an option and approximately the cost of it, but if you clicked on it, it would actually take you to the Lyft app in order to schedule that trip. But it does allow you to do a little bit of that comparison, both for price and for time of trip. And then down at the bottom, there's also an option to buy RTD tickets right in the transit app as well. Once you look at those, you can click on any of the options and it'll pull up an overview of the route. So this person clicked on what was the top option, and it's showing them that they're going to take the FF2 until they reach Denver. I'm guessing that's Union Station where they're transferring. And they're going to get onto the E line, take that out to Aurora. It shows that on the map up top. I guess they're starting at the green dot, ending at the red dot. So I read that backwards, but they're going to start with the E route, transfer to the FF2 up to Boulder. You can swipe up from the bottom of the screen to show the details for the route. So this person pulled out from the bottom of the screen. Now you can see, okay, looks like they're going to take the 6 bus and the FF2. It's showing them that they're going to start out with an 8-minute walk to reach that number 6 bus. at Lowry Boulevard and Rampart Way. That's where they get on. And then right where that red circle is, they're going to take it 33 stops. If you click on where it says 33 stops, it will display all the stops you're going to ride the bus. It also has a feature called Go that you can enable. This is kind of like, I guess, a travel assistant that goes with you on your phone. So if you have the transit app running and you're on the bus, Go will let you know when you need to leave to reach the bus, or when you're on the bus, it'll let you know that your stop is coming up. So it can be a really handy feature if you're not familiar with the bus route. Go can give you that little reminder of when you need to get on or off the bus. Something to note when I am demonstrating, because I do not live close to a bus stop, Go does not show up as an option for me to use from where I'm demonstrating right now. But if you are near the bus stop, Go is an option you can enable in the app. And like I said, it's really handy for letting you know when your stop is, if you are not familiar with that bus. As I mentioned before, you can buy tickets right in the application by clicking on that RTD tickets button at the bottom. You must have an RTD account already set up, and this is different than using the RTD mobile ticketing app. Personally, I would recommend attending our RTD mobile ticketing app and learning how to use that application, because that's RTD's app, and it just works well for for purchasing tickets, whereas this is a third-party service that's selling you an RTD ticket. So it does work, but I would probably recommend using the RTD mobile ticketing app itself. As we mentioned, it also will show you that ride sharing information, so that Lyft information, which can be great for comparing time and cost for that trip. So it allows you to do a little bit of that trip planning right there in the application itself. If you do decide you want to take a Lyft, it will take you to the Lyft app to actually schedule that ride, but it does allow for some of that trip planning to happen right there in one application, which is really a handy feature of the app. So now I will demonstrate it. Let me stop sharing this screen and share my tablet. Skip just a second. Alrighty, now that that's up. So I already have the Transit app downloaded. I have it in this folder called Transit down here. So I'll click on that, open it up. You'll see the Transit app there in the top left corner, that green with the yellow kind of zigzag. So I'm gonna click on the Transit app. Now I'll open up the app. It may take just a minute. It's opened up. You can see up at the top there, there's that house. So that's my current location. And actually, I have it saved in the app, so it knows that's my home. See that? So I can pinch in. You can see the rest of the map. There's that blue dot showing where I am. So I'm going to click on the where to. And do you have somewhere you would like us to go on this trip, Lisa?
Well, I know it's a long trip, but even with my walker, I would like to go to Eldora and just escape. I'd go anywhere but my house right now.
I understand that feeling. So from Lafayette to Eldora?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll type in Eldora. Oops. Help if I can spell it.
No, you're right.
Eldora Mountain Resort.
Yeah.
And then we don't want my current location. We're going to do it from Lafayette. So I'm going to click there. Let's just do it from the Lafayette Public Library because it's fairly central.
Yeah. It would probably be the same bus.
I would imagine.
Because it would just bring me to Boulder to.
We'll do it from the Lafayette Public Library.
Yeah.
Oh, it's telling us that no transit routes can be found. That would be leaving right now, though. So let's change the time of day and see if it'll pull one up. So if you notice underneath where it says Lafayette Public Library and then Eldora Mountain Resort, right underneath that, we have a button that says Leave Now. I'm going to click on that. And now I can set a date and time for this bus instead. So let's click on it. Let's do it on Saturday the 30th. Click there, and let's change the time. I bet there's more buses in the morning, so we're going to do it for, let's just do 7. Let's do 7 a.m. leaving Lafayette.
Okay.
I'll click OK.
You're dreaming if you think I'm leaving that early, but okay.
Click OK again. Let's see if it has some bus routes. Perfect. Now we have some bus routes that could work. So up here, this first one, we'd have to go at 7:08 to catch the 2:25 bus. And it would get us up to Eldora a little before 9. It looks like all told, it would take an hour and 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second bus option, we could go at 7:28, which is get a little bit more sleep, but it looks like there's a huge gap between when the 2:25 is going to get to Boulder and to when it leaves Boulder. So it's going to take us nearly 3 hours and 30 minutes. So I think that first option is much better at an hour and 50. So we'll click on that one. And now it shows us the 2 buses we're going to be taking. So that green dot is where we're starting, the red dot being where we're ending. So you can see the blue line is the 2:25, which we're taking to Boulder. We're going to get onto the NB2 and take that up to Eldora. If we pull up from the bottom here, it tells us the bus comes every 30 minutes. It does give us a quick warning that there has been a service modification for this bus. And if we click on modified service, this will pull up this window here, which will tell us about that service change. So all passengers are required to wear a face mask. So it just reminds us about their health and safety guidelines. So they will alert us of that.
Yeah.
But we'll go back to our route. So it looks like it's going to be a 3-minute walk from the library to the bus stop. We're going to get on at Baseline Road and North Carr Avenue. We're taking for 36 stops. If we want to see what those are, we can click where it says 36 stops. That will show us all of the stops that we're going to ride the bus for. We're going to get off at the downtown Boulder station. Luckily for this route, that's the last stop, so we don't need to worry about keeping track of them. The bus is going to stop there and not go any further. We're going to get off there, and we're going to get on to the NB2 at 8:10, right at the downtown Boulder station. We're going to take it for 20 stops. Also to its last stop on the route, which is right in front of the lifts at Eldora Mountain Resort. We're going to get off, and it's going to be a 1-minute walk then to the resort itself. So that would get us there. One more thing I do want to show right here is we could set a reminder for this bus by clicking on that little bell. You could say, remind us 30 minutes before we need to leave. You could set it for whatever time you want, and then you just click save. That would set your phone a reminder to let you know, time to get ready for the bus. So that's a nice option. Also, go back to the main page of the application right here. From here where it says where to, if you click where there's that little briefcase with a plus sign, if you click on that, you can set different addresses in your phone. So let's say you want to set where your job is. Right now, you could just type it in and save it. And then next time you're using the app, you wouldn't need to type it in again, which is a handy feature of the app. So I have my home address set in here. Also click here. You can do it from here too, I believe, if it will load for me. Go to the middle one to the settings. Yep, see, I have a home address saved, but I could edit it if I wanted. Change it to home or work or school, whatever the case may be. Or I could set a work address. Click in here, type it in, set that as my address, save that in here, which is nice. You also tell it which transit options you want. So commuter rail, light rail, bus, skyride. I have it set to all of them. I don't have light rail in my area, but when I'm in Denver, I want it to show me that option as well. So I do have it set. Also, this is a nice feature. You can have it show accessibility info and identify step-free options by clicking on that option there. Something to note about that, it's only as accessible as the transit system is. So it's going to do its best to show you those options. But if that bus stop has stairs and there is no other way to navigate it, it's still going to show you that bus stop, but it will try to limit the amount of steps. But just note, if that RTD stop is not accessible to begin with, the app will still show it because it's part of the RTD system, but it does try its best to identify step-free options. So I do have that turned on just so I can kind of have a sense of it, but that is an option in the application. You can also enable ride hailing, biking, walking. I have all of those turned on. And then I also have enabled special announcements. So that allows it to tell me when there's a service change, like how we saw earlier on. So all of those settings are underneath. If you just click on that little gear in the top left corner, click on that. Then there's that smiley face, and then this middle one that has those two like sliders. You'll click on that, and then there's all the settings. You can set those addresses, turn on those accessibility settings if you wish. You can do all of that right there in the app. So that covers the transit app. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Nope.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my device and go back to the presentation itself.
Okay.
Alrighty, so now that you've completed the class, we will send out a follow-up email that will have a link to a short survey. That survey just allows us to gather information on how we're doing as facilitators and teachers, see if it was helpful for you, if there's any changes that you all would like to see in the classes moving forward, any kind of feedback like that. Fill out that short survey. It will send us the results for that, and then we will be able to send you out your RTD mobile tickets. To get those tickets, you do need to set up an RTD account. And once you set up that account, they will send you an email to verify your account. Make sure you click verify, otherwise we can't send out those tickets. Once you complete that survey and set up your account, we'll send you tickets. They'll arrive in your inbox and you'll have 10 RTD mobile tickets to try out when times are safer and you're traveling by bus again. So those will be on the way. And that covers everything we have for today. Here's our contact information. If you have any mobility questions, feel free to reach out. We have our phone number, 720-564-2218, or you can email the Mobility for All email account, which is mobilityforall@bouldercounty.org, and we'll get back to you that way as well. So any questions about how to reach a destination, or maybe you have a family member that you need to help get them to school or to the doctor or wherever the case may be, if you need help navigating that, just let us know. We're here to help. So thank you so much for joining us today. And that's everything I have for you.
Thank you. Okay.